All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. With Scott Rowland and Fred McGriff set for enshrinement into the Baseball Hall of Fame this summer, it's never too early to look ahead to the ballot for 2024, which could potentially be good. Players appearing on the ballot for the first time next year include Adrian Beltre, Joe Mauer, and Chase Utley. Now, in 21 MLB seasons, Beltre tallied 3,166 hits to go along with 477 career homers, a 286 batting average, while also being a four-time All-Star and taking home 5 Gold Gloves. In 16 MLB seasons, Utley was a 275 hitter with 411 career doubles and 259 homers, while also being a six-time All-Star. In 15 MLB seasons, primarily as a catcher, Mauer hit 306 with 2,123 career hits, 428 doubles. He was also a six-time All-Star, and he was the American League MVP in 2009. Along with Beltre, Utley, and Mauer, David Wright, Jose Reyes, Jose Bautista, Adrian Gonzalez, Victor Martinez, and Bartolo Colon are some of the players that are going to be on the ballot for the first time. Now, this year we saw that Todd Helton was on the cusp of getting in. He received more than 72% of the votes. And in 17 MLB seasons, Helton was a 316 hitter with 2,519 career hits, 592 doubles, and 369 home runs, while also being a five-time All-Star. And being that he is so close right now to getting in, you see that the writers are not holding it against him for playing in Denver in the thin Rocky Mountain air. Now, will the 10th time next year be the charm for reliever Billy Wagner? He did receive more than 68% of the vote this year, while his 422 career saves are sixth all time, and only John Franco has saved more games, 424, as a lefty in MLB history than Wagner. Now, some other questions you have to ask. Will the veteran committee ever put in Dave Parker, Keith Hernandez, Dale Murphy, and Kurt Schilling? And I'm sure there's other guys that I am omitting from this list, but these are just guys for me that stand out. You think about what Dave Parker did in his prime, a former MVP with the Pittsburgh Pirates, two-time World Series champion. You think about Keith Hernandez, MVP of the National League in 1979, excuse me, 11 Gold Gloves at first base. But the thing is like with Parker and Keith Hernandez, that Pittsburgh drug trial, unfortunately, still hangs over their heads. Dale Murphy, the only two-time MVP that is not in the Baseball Hall of Fame, and then Kurt Schilling. Schilling was one of the better pitchers of his era, but he's been a little controversial. Off the field, he's one that he's going to speak his mind. People don't agree with everything that Schilling has said and done, and that is being held against him. So I don't know if the writers will ever put Kurt Schilling in because of that. He came close before, but I'm not sure now that he has to go through the veteran committee. Will he get enough support? We got to wait and see. Will Jeff Kent ever get in? Now, like Roland, Kent played 17 MLB seasons. He hit 377 career home runs compared to Roland's 316. He had a 290 batting average compared to Roland's 281. He was the National League MVP in 2000, which is an honor that Roland never had. He was also a five-time All-Star compared to Roland's six, but Kent never got the Gold Gloves like Roland. Roland took home 8 Gold Glove awards, while Kent never had any. But at the end of the day, Jeff Kent belongs in the Hall of Fame. I don't care what anybody says. I think part of the problem is the media never liked Jeff Kent. And some are also going to argue that Kent was never a likable guy. But at the end of the day, are we judging somebody by whether or not they were likable, or are we judging somebody based on the fact that they were a good baseball player? And I think if you're talking about putting quality players into the Hall of Fame. And this is no offense to Scott Rowland, but I'm like, if you're going to put Scott Rowland in, Jeff Kent definitely deserves to be in as well. There's a case for Carlos Delgado. He had 473 career home runs, 280 batting average. He was only a two-time All-Star and 17 MLB seasons, and he never got a ton of love on the balloting. So that's unfortunate right there because you think about those years that Carlos Delgado put together, especially in his prime, most of them with the Toronto Blue Jays, and he definitely has to get some love. But in regards to next year, I think Adrian Beltre, number one, is a shoe in because you think about it, mm, there's that holy grail for baseball. The 300 game winner, the 3,000 strikeout mark, the 500 home run mark, pre-steroid era and post-steroid era, of course. Then also the 3,000 hit mark, and Adrian Beltre definitely got to the 3,000 hit mark. And usually, guys who reach those feats, they're a shoe in to get the 75% needed to get into Cooperstown. And I think Beltre gets that next year. Joe Mauer, I think Joe Mauer makes a strong case to get in the first time on the ballot as well. He hit more than 300 primarily as a catcher, had more than 2,000 hits, and he was also an MVP. I think Chase Utley is going to get some support. I'm not sure if he's going to get 75% needed to get in first time around, but I think he possibly could be a guy that's going to have to sit around on the ballot for several years before he gets in. For guys like David Wright and Jose Reyes, I don't think they get in. It's going to be one of those incompletes on their resume. I mean, Wright started off strong before the injuries and the bad back got the best of him on the second half of his career. You think about Jose Reyes, he came out like gangbusters at the beginning of his career in regards to stealing bases. He could hit for average, he could hit for power. And, he was a guy that really impacted the game. But once he left the Mets, it really went downhill for him. He was never the same player. Had some off the field issues as well. So I don't think Reyes gets in. Jose Bautista, the second half of his career was much better than the first half as well. And at the end of the day, I don't think Adrian Gonzalez, Victor Martinez, and Bartolo Colon are going to get enough support. Remember, Bartolo Colon was suspended by MLB for performance enhancement. So I think definitely we could see Mauer, or pardon me, Beltre get in next year, possibly more than likely Mauer. Todd Helton being so close, you have to just go ahead and assume that he's going to get another 2.5, maybe 3% on the voting in order to get over the hump. Billy Wagner being so close this year, is he going to get 7% more next year in order to get to Cooperstown? We have to wait and see. So I think we're probably going to see three or four guys get elected next year, not to mention anybody that the veteran committee puts in. But I think, again, Beltre, it's going to be very hard to deny Adrian Beltre his spot in Cooperstown, and I think the same thing can be said uh, for um, pardon me, for Joe Mauer as well. So Scott Rowland and Fred McGriff are in this year. I guarantee you now they got close to 7 months to get their speeches ready. But nonetheless, and obviously Freddie McGriff had a little bit more time since he was elected by the veteran committee. But let's see how things change from now until this time next year, as far as the guys who are so close. And let's see how things work out for the guys their first time around next year on the ballot. But nonetheless, it's going to be very interesting to see who gets into Cooperstown for the Baseball Hall of Fame in 2024. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it will be my pleasure to follow you right back. There is also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off. saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.